Welcome back to the program. In Egypt, the planning minister Hala Al-Fayed says the government is targeting a growth rate of around 5% for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Speaking at a news conference, Said said Egypt is also looking to boost its growth rates from about 4% currently to between 6 to 6.5% in 2020. The growth rates for the second quarter of the fiscal year slowed to 3.8% from 4% during the same period last year, and attributing the fall to a decline in consumption and a rise in the price of imports due to Egypt's floating of its pound currency in November. Last year, the ministry had reported the second quarter figure as 3.8%. Commodity prices or commodity resource states remain critical game changers for Africa's next round of economic recovery, despite the rough deal the continent got in the past few years of tumbling prices of natural resources. And this is according to the president of the Africa CEO Forum, Mr. Amir Ben Yahmed. Speaking exclusively to Channels Television business editor Bosin Omofaye on Sunday evening in Geneva, Switzerland, Mr. Yahmed says Africa's new opportunities at the commodities market must be matched with good governance and investments in infrastructure.
Why would African businesses, African leaders discuss this outside the continent? Why not host it on the African continent?
Because you probably have noticed that Africa still has a need for international investments. So the reason why we wanted to put the forum for the first edition in Geneva was to give an international showcase to Africa and to show to the world the strength of African capitalism, the strength of its CEOs, the strength of the industries. And so that's why we wanted to begin with to do it in Geneva. And then last year edition we did it in Ivory Coast, and we have decided to rotate the event between Africa and an international location, Geneva being our choice, our first choice.
If we look at the main focus of this event, for example, the Africa Rising story was just about a decade ago. Quick question, how much did you think Africa was able to achieve under the Africa Rising story until we have the commodity bust and now we have to reshape and rethink the African business model?
That's exactly the theme of our program this year. What we have to realize that these 10 years, there's some plus and some minus. On the plus side, the interesting is that Africa is again on the international investment map. The African CEOs themselves are starting to believe in the Africa growth story. So it's very important because one of the things that Africa has to do is just not rely on international investment, also on local investment. And on the minus side, a lot of countries, mainly oil-producing countries, mining economies, have not used these 10 years of growth to make the necessary reform, to do the structural adjustment. And so they're back not to square one, because that would be a little bit harsh, but they're still facing difficulties. But at the same time, you have a lot of economies that are doing very well. All the economies that are on the eastern part of Africa, being in the influence of China, where we'll see probably a lot of industrial investments, are faring very well. You have probably approximately 10 economies that are having a growth around 7+% of growth. So we have to keep on fighting.
If you look at African continent and you want to do a bit of a country specifics, where do you see growth that can leapfrog Africa under the new rethinking and rebuilding the African model? Do you think the same commodity, natural resource countries will still be the major game changer for Africa moving forward from where we are right now?
Yes, there's no way the commodities story is not going to be a prominent story in the years to come. An oil-producing country has to take advantage of its resources to develop and to try to create other industries. Same thing for mining. So the story has to be very still important, and we'll always be looking closely at the prices of commodities. But we have other area of growth, mainly through digital innovation. We have in the healthcare business, in the education business, in the retail business. So we have a lot of room to grow, and it will depend on a lot of the strategy of every country.
Finally, we've seen a number of African countries that were backward 20, 30 years ago becoming emerging regional players like Ethiopia, for example. Ivory Coast is making a very strong comeback. And in the north of the continent, you find Morocco rejoining the African Union and others. Do you think these are new opportunities for the continent and for the global investors who want to play on the African continent?
Yes, definitely. What you have described is also the rise of a different Africas, not one Africa, Africa. So the way Morocco is developing, the way Ethiopia is developing, the way Ivory Coast is developing is one way. But you have people with different type of resources, different type of access to water or not, they will have another way of developing. But most importantly, the thing that we have to work on is regional integration, because we have a lot of markets that are too small to thrive. This is one thing. We have to work on governance. This is still a big issue. As long as we have not solved this, we will not have international investments.
Kenya's government has issued a ban on plastic bags that will take effect from September this year. The country's Ministry of Environment says this is because of its threat to public health and the environment.
Kenyan authorities have announced a ban on plastic bags, giving manufacturers until September to phase them out. The notice by Kenya's Environment Minister bans the use, manufacture and importation of plastic bags used for commercial and household packaging. Produced and then strewn en masse in most countries, the flimsy bags have become a threat to public health and the environment. Countries like Rwanda and Eritrea have imposed outright bans on plastic bags, while Uganda has also introduced measures to curb their use. The director at the National Environment Management Authority in Kenya explains that government attempted to ban the plastic bags twice before, but implementation has been a challenge.
It has a problem everywhere. And as if we actually wish and want this strategy on dealing with waste to succeed, we knew we had to do something about plastics. Bear in mind that this is something we have attempted twice before, in 2007 and 2011, and that never succeeded. So this time we thought we have the goodwill, because other countries in the region, like Rwanda and Uganda, have also gone the same route.
Polythene bags block drains and sewage systems and kill livestock who nibble and digest them. They spread malaria by holding mini pools of warm water for mosquitoes to breed in. They also choke soil and plants and leak color additives into food. The plastic bags phenomenon began in the late 1990s when new technology made production cheap and easy. The consequent throwaway culture meant they quickly became an ugly but integral part of the African landscape. But manufacturers do not believe in drastic measures.
And that's our program today. Thank you so much for watching. I am Bisi Adebayo.